Welcome back to The Burn with Ryan Van Deaver, presented to you by Hot Zone Sports. The information you need to know, built with you in mind, for the people, by the people, and with the people. Make sure you like the videos, subscribe, and share it with your friends if you haven't already. Now, we had a game last night, didn't we, guys? And boy, it was, in the words of Jim Ross, former WWE commentator, a legend, a barn burner. Nobody got taken to the woodshed last night and beaten, although the Ravens might have felt like it. But, man, the game just started, the first drive for the Ravens started out really slow. But they ended up gaining a lot of steam because guess what? Lamar Jackson's legs ended up becoming a factor. Big shocker. but the big thing that I really noticed was there was a bunch of motion. You would have Derrick Henry going one way, you'd have Lamar Jackson going out a quarterback run to the other, and then you'd have the tight end. You'd think he would be blocking the nearest linebacker, but Lamar Jackson would be able to get around him with his speed, and so Isaiah Likely would end up blocking the second linebacker, getting Lamar Jackson to the next level. So when it came to those plays, those design runs, they were really difficult to stop. But you could easily see that the Chiefs were not ready for that motion. Not at all. Along with the big plays from Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers was a big part of that first drive for the Ravens. The Chiefs had their best on him, and Flowers still gashed him. Now, nothing really stopped the Chiefs on their first possession. Do I dare say that they look more explosive in one drive than they did all of last season? Yeah, I will. Xavier Worley capped off the first drive with a 21-yard end around untouched, or maybe somebody grazed his shoulder. By the way, that was his first regular season play. Not too shabby, huh? On the second drives, you could really see, the defenses started to take control, but the Chiefs really won a thriller of a game, 27-20. It looked like the Ravens appeared to score a touchdown at the end of the game, at the end of regulation, mind you, but Isaiah Likely's big toe just crossed out of bounds. If his shoe size would have been a 9.5, it probably would have been a touchdown. He really missed the touchdown. It looked like less than an inch. And they could have won the game. They were going to be going for the 2-point conversion. So you never know how that's going to shake out. You got Lamar Jackson, but you also got a stacked Chiefs defense. So you never know. But I'm not saying the Chiefs got away with anything, but they walked out of Arrowhead, hands looking a little bit dirty for some thievery. That's what it felt like to me, because, man, they got away with one. Lamar Jackson walking away from this game with 400 total yards of offense. Early on, it looked like Zay Flowers was going to have a hell of a game, but the Chiefs ended up locking him down. And second half, and besides Rashad Bateman making a catch on the final drive, a big catch, mind you, setting them up for their final red zone visit. And besides Isaiah Likely making some catches, as well as offense, the offense was pretty Lamar Jackson centric. Obviously, he had, I think it was like 395 total yards of offense just by himself. But I am sorry. I'm sorry, but if you are a Ravens fan, you are worried walking away from this game. Mark Andrews was nowhere to be found. And I understand he's coming off an injury, but he said that he was 100% healthy. So there's no reason he should have been as absent as he was in the game. It became very apparent in that game that Isaiah Likely is going to be the Ravens' tight end one. He is just way too damn explosive, and Mark Andrews just looks washed. I'm sorry. I know people hate to hear that word, but that's just the way he looked last night. So I'm sorry. But Ravens fans, you have a bigger issue at hand. And that is Lamar Jackson. If he is expected to rush 16 times a game for over 100 yards and throw for another 300, guesstimating here, well, not guesstimating, estimating, this is going to be an equation for a disastrous season. Not for the Ravens, but for Lamar Jackson himself. Not because I don't think the Ravens wouldn't do well, but because no quarterback in the history of the league would be able to sustain these types of hits on a weekly basis. You were just asking far too much from your franchise quarterback. And the reason why they were having Lamar Jackson run so much is because he couldn't connect deep down the field. He was consistently missing targets. You saw that on the final drive. You saw that on the final drive of the game where he has Zay Flowers in the middle of the end zone. Chiefs are dead to rights and just missed him to the left. Really bad accuracy. Lamar Jackson could say that he was looking another direction or whatnot. Bullshit. There ain't no damn way. Just own your fuck up, okay? Just please, for the God, for humanity itself, just own it. I missed him. That's all you got to say. Instead of saying, oh, well, I didn't really see him. I was looking at another guy. Who the hell were you looking at? Because there wasn't a guy that was closer to him that was 5 yards. That was 5 yards away from him. So if you missed him, you really missed the other guy. So moving on. Good God. If you really examine Lamar Jackson's accuracy problems, he's had accuracy problems since day one, really. He's always been labeled as the running back playing quarterback. Even I've done that sometimes. But let's just look at his accuracy from last night. Passes on 20 plus yards. He was 1 for 5. Yeah, that's not good. Passes of 15 plus yards. He was 4 for 11. Everything last night was dink and dunk. His passes in the first half had less than 1 air yard per pass. Are you shitting me right now? Less than 1 yard per pass. That's horrible. Actually, I think it was 0.8. If you want to go ahead and look it up yourself, it's there on the interweb. 0.8. Everything happened behind the line of scrimmage. And I mean everything. The bigger issue with Lamar Jackson was the fact that I didn't even count him slide once in the game. And you saw him go out of bounds a couple of times, but he was lowering his shoulder most of the time, taking on contact. That is not sustainable. You cannot do that in every NFL game. You're going to get injured. It's only a matter of time before it happens. And I hate to see franchise quarterbacks get injured, but if he continues to play this way, it's going to happen. And then what next for the Ravens? But here's a little stat to throw out to you. When Lamar Jackson is trailing by more than 10 points at halftime, he is 0-5. Jackson is just, simply put, not built to play from behind. He's not. When you ask Lamar Jackson to win a game for you solely by using his arm, more than likely than not, you're not going to win that said game. It was proven again last night. Yes, he can use his legs, but when you need an accurate throw for a touchdown, a game-clinching touchdown, to send it to overtime or to go for that 2-point conversion, he's not the guy. It's been proven over the years. Just look at it like this. On the final drive, he had 3 downs to work with when he was in the red zone. I think there was 19 seconds left. Yeah. Let me check my notes here. Yeah, 19 seconds left. They needed a touchdown to either tie it up or go for 2. Harbaugh was doing this motion, so they were going to go for 2 and try to win the game. But he missed Zay Flowers. He missed Isaiah Likely. And then when he's hit Isaiah Likely, he hit him to where Isaiah Likely's momentum was carrying him out of bounds. So it wasn't even an accurate pass. But me personally, I've been lukewarm on Lamar Jackson. I've always seen him more of a threat as a runner than as a passer, and he proved it again last night. He's a great regular season quarterback. He is a juggernaut. But when it comes to postseason, when it comes down to possessions, when it comes down to needing touchdowns in crunch time, and only being able to use your arm, Jackson isn't the most dependable. But when it comes to regular season games, he is amazing. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, Justice Hill had 6 receptions for 52 yards. The Chiefs linebackers had a hell of a time controlling him. But if you really look at it, Justice Hill did better than Derrick Henry. He was more of a threat than Derrick Henry. The Ravens tried to establish a run. They rushed it 5 times with Derrick Henry in the first drive, but after that, it wasn't much of their offense besides Lamar Jackson, of course. The Ravens have missed the field goal, the fumble by Lamar Jackson, the 4th down conversion that was stopped by the Chiefs. It wasn't a very crisp game played by the Ravens. In reality, they had to walk away from the field completely dejected that they left a lot more in the locker room than they did on the field. This offense is looking more like a 3-headed monster, so to speak. It's going to be Zay Flowers getting most of the targets as wide receiver. And then it's going to be Isaiah Likely. And as your running back, it's going to be Derrick Henry. And I'm not sure that's going to scare a lot of teams. I do see this team as a ceiling 10-win season. At their low bar, maybe 8 wins. But they're going to have to figure out what they're going to do on offense, because if last night is a testament to anything for the future of this season, it's not going to look pretty. They could easily start the season 1-3. Really, just look at their schedule. Like, it's feasible they could, but in the middle part of their schedule, that's where it gets real easy. So I could really see it, them as a 10-win season. But let's talk a little bit about the Chiefs. We have not even touched them. Holy hell. So, Xavier Worthy. Yeah, we need to touch on this fool. He had the fastest 40 combine time. Every scout was saying that he has straight line speed, but he can't run a route. He has no route running ability. This is why scouts don't know their shit most of the time. This is because He was running some routes last night. He has some intermediate patterns. He has some short patterns. And yeah, on that end around, straight line speed. He does have that. You scouts were correct. But last night, I know it's a small sample size, but Xavier Worthy showed all of the scouts that all the negative things they said about him, that he was just a speed guy. On his first touch of the game, he went for an end-around touchdown where he was barely even touched. And you'd actually have to zoom in on the replay just to see if he was actually touched. That's how ridiculous he is. And then you have Tyreek Hill coming out today talking about how fast he was as well. If that's not a compliment, I don't know what the hell is. He ended the night with 2 touchdowns, and that is one hell of a rookie debut. Yeah, Mahomes did have 1 interception, so if you had Roquan Smith in your fantasy lineup, well, he got you 20 points last night, so good job, guys. But in reality, this is the type of Chiefs offense that you were expecting. Last year, they led the NFL in drops. It was really hard to watch. When they played the Detroit Lions, first game of the season last year, Kadarius Toney dropped. That led to an interception. And that kept on recurring throughout the season. But last night, there were not a lot of drops. Yeah, Kelsey could have done more. You know, he had 3 receptions for 34 yards. It was pretty much non-existent, as you could tell by the fact of the camera not panning to Taylor Swift. So you didn't have that much Taylor Swift visitation of your living room or bedroom. I don't judge. You didn't see her on your screen every 2 seconds. So that was a nice addition, right? I know we're supposed to love Taylor Swift, but, you know, it is what it is. I don't care. Whatever. Judge me. Judge me all you want. You know, I'm not hating on Taylor Swift. I'm just saying this is the thing. You know, she was barely on TV last night, and I'm sure it was kind of refreshing for most NFL fans that have a severe disdain for Taylor Swift. I don't have a severe disdain. I just don't like her music. Sue me. The crazy thing, though, last night, Rashee Rice, I know he's supposed to, the league is supposed to suspend him. We don't know if that's going to happen. It's rigged. The crazy thing is that Rashee Rice, the passes he was getting from Mahomes are like simple. This is something you run in flag football. Maybe they're getting ready for flag football. Who knows? It could be their next play. Maybe Taylor Swift drew up that play. Oh, shit. I got to get back. So, Rice, he was isolated up against the linebacker. And he just goes out for a couple of yards and then catches the ball. And boom, he explodes. This was ran in about 5 different formations that I counted. This is why Andy Reid is an offensive genius. And if you dispute that fact, there is 20 plus years of plays about as ridiculous and simple as this that were executed to perfection. Something so simple is going for so many yards and it's working repeatedly. And the fact that the Ravens defense didn't even seem to adjust to the play was bothersome. Like, wow. I saw that Kelsey was double teamed 40% of the plays for the Chiefs. So when you're double teamed, like everybody knows, that somebody's going to be open. Whether it be Justin Watson, whether it be Noah Gray, the Chiefs took advantage. Like, come on. Like Mahomes isn't going to pass it to a wide open Justin Watson. I know he had the dropsies last year, but yeah, he's going to make that throw every single time. On the defensive side of the ball, the Chiefs, man, their linebackers are really out of position quite often. And with L'Jarius Sneed, being gone, traded to the Titans, and Jalen Watson taking over, you expected there to be some hiccups in the secondary, but for the most part, they looked pretty solid. A lot of that could have been due to the inaccuracy from Lamar Jackson, missing Zay Flowers in the end zone, making it difficult for Isaiah Likely. It was pretty much an entire game issue for Lamar Jackson, especially when it came to his deep ball. It's easy to be sick of the Chiefs at this point. I mean, aren't we all? I don't know. I'm not really sick. I don't really care. I care, but I don't hate the Chiefs. Not like I hated the Patriots when they were doing their shit. I won't get into that. But it's easy to be sick of the Chiefs at this point. They're coming off of back-to-back championships. I know. Holding calls. False start. Illegal procedure. They're not called. Yeah, I know. I get it. Mahomes is still dominant. He's still magical. And the Chiefs have just retooled their offense with more speedy wide receivers. Dare I say, they're trying to find multiple Tyreek Hills to put on their offense. Which, if that is the case, holy hell. That is one hell of a plan. But now they have Samaje Perine coming out of the backfield, and you can have him as a blocker. He is a really, really good blocker. Or you can have him as a pass catcher. He's a really good pass catcher as well. At this point, you have to marvel what Mahomes and Reed continue to do. Just like when Tom Brady and Bill Belichick did it. Just like when Michael Jordan won his championships. And just like how LeBron won his championships as well. Even the one in the bubble. It still counts. You don't see dominance like this very often. So, just appreciate it. Take a breath. I know you're probably pissed off at this point, but just take a breath. Woo-saw. Just take a breath, man. It'll be all right. Let's just take a step back and enjoy it. If you're a Raiders fan, don't enjoy it because I know you hate the Chiefs massively. But if you are a Raiders fan, then you have to hope that somebody, not you guys, because you're not good enough this year. Sorry. Just not going to happen. You have to hope that the Chiefs run into the Bengals in the playoffs, and the Bengals can take them out. Because it's been proven, Burrowhead, it's there. But that's really all you can hope for. All right, so since this is a newer podcast, this is episode 11. We made it past 10. We didn't quit, guys. So since this is a newer podcast, I'll let you know a little bit about me. All right, so I am a college football junkie. Well, a football junkie in general. I do high school football, community college football, you name it, I'm a junkie for it. So every Friday I'm going to be doing a podcast talking about college football, giving best bets sometimes, giving previews of games other times, and I'm going to be doing the same for the NFL. So, saying that, let's go ahead and get into it. Probably the biggest game of the week that most fans are going to have their eyes on, especially the big old state of Texas, is going to be Texas and Michigan. Obviously, Michigan is not the same team that we saw last year. And Texas just seemed to retool, add more weapons, add more beef, to that defensive line and the offensive line. Texas is looking absolutely dominant right now. Yes, I know. It was a small sample size, just like the preseason NFL. It doesn't matter. Actually, these do matter. But it is a small sample size. And they look damn good for the first game of their season. They are absolutely stacked on every position on the field. And not to mention, they have a massive payroll. Yes, that does need to be discussed. They have a payroll just like Oregon, just like Ohio State. To me, it's just crazy that Oregon, their top dog, just completely opened up his checkbook because he wants to see one more championship. I don't think he's actually seen a championship, but moving on, Michigan's defense is still stacked, even after what they lost last year. The difference between this team and last year's team is the offense. They are going to continue to struggle for the foreseeable future. 7.5 points is going to be hard to cover in this game. Yes, Texas is stacked, but you're going into the big house, and I see Texas having a more difficult time scoring in this game. The over-under is 42.5, so don't be surprised if the score ends up being 27-10, 24-10, something along those lines. Michigan's defense is going to carry them, and in most of these games that they play this season, I see them as possibly 9-3, 8-4 type. They will most likely be sitting out of the playoff. But this defense is good enough to carry the entire team. The offense was just, there's only one way to put it, downright ugly last week. The receivers themselves couldn't gain any type of separation. The offensive line looked rough. I mean, if you even look at Donovan Edwards, he's not the most efficient running back, and they no longer have Blake Corum. So it's going to be a struggle there too. The quarterback play, on the other hand, it's going to be a work in progress all season long. Not so much go blue. The key to this game is going to be if Quinn Ewers will be able to hit his wide receivers in stride on his deep ball, because he does not have the most accurate deep ball in all of the FBS. One big thing to look for in this game is going to be if Michigan doesn't get a lead and they have to play from behind, it's pretty much going to be game over. Game, set, match, gavel. It's going to be dunzos, because the type of quarterback play that they have, they're just not going to be able to play from behind. And I see this Michigan offense as a very slow time managing offense. Then playing from behind, it's not their strong suit whatsoever, especially when you're playing a stacked team like Texas. Playing from behind is not going to work out very well in your favor. Next up is Tennessee and NC State. Tennessee is a 9.5 favorite on the road. Yeah, it's on the road. Especially with NC State, being in the top 25 now. I think this 9.5 has a lot to do with Tennessee's new quarterback, Nico, and how well he played last week, just setting Chattanooga's asses on fire, winning 60-93, passing for 314 yards, 3 touchdowns, going 22 for 28. I just don't think Tennessee is good enough this year to make a title run by any means. But if they recruit well, get the right guys out of the transfer portal, I think the Volunteers could be a title contender over the next couple of years. But a team going on the road and getting 9.5 seems a little bit high for me. But you also have to take into account that NC State struggled a little bit against an FCS team, while Tennessee completely demolished their FCS team that they played. A big part of this game isn't going to be discussed very much, and that's the fact that Tennessee's secondary, they lost 3 guys to the NFL. So their secondary is going to be a little thin. So NC State is going to need to take advantage of that with quick RPOs, quick hitters. And quarterback Grayson McCall is definitely going to have to play better than he did last week. Now, he's struggling, could easily be explained by him being in a brand new offense, getting used to the new offensive coordinator and his tendencies, and he could also be shaking off a lot of rust from the previous season. But it should be noted that this game is not a true home game for NC State. This game is going to be played in Charlotte, North Carolina. You might be saying, well, it's still in North Carolina. You're right. Keep listening. If you're a Tennessee fan, it's about a 3.5 to 4 hour drive to Charlotte. Yeah. So I would expect a huge turnout, especially after last week's game. Going to be a massive turnout of volunteer fans in Charlotte for this game. I see this being a 60-40 split for the fans at NC State. Could be even more. Might even be a 50-50. But one thing I will be looking at is to see how well Nico plays against the NC State defense. Yeah, they're retooling a little bit, and they took a step back last week, so you're really going to see how well this defense is going to play against a good competition like Tennessee. And if Nico plays well against NC State, I don't see why Tennessee can't make even more noise and be ahead of schedule for their championship build, if that's what ends up happening. Next up, Oregon and Boise State. Don't expect Boise State to run into Oregon and be completely scared, because over the years, and yes, I know, different rosters, different coaches, different coaching staffs, I understand all that, but they will not be scared running into Autzen Stadium. I mean, their running back basically ran for 500 yards last week. Maybe that's an exaggeration. Oh, I know, whatever. So with that, the offense is going to be running back centric. That we do know for certain. But they will not be scared by any means playing Oregon. But to be getting 19 points with a cover of 61. Yeah. Wow. On the other side of that coin, I am sure that Dan Lanning has not been taking it easy on his Oregon players this week after how ridiculously bad they played against Idaho. But this is just a weird spot for the Oregon Ducks to be in right now. Either they beat Boise State, or do I dare say Boise State answers the bell and beats Oregon, because you didn't really see that much offensively from Oregon last week against Idaho. So there are questions that need to be answered. Now, is Oregon going to answer that bell? We're going to have to find out. But in the same aspect, you had a new quarterback, new defensive players in the form of the transfer portal. And it should also be noted that Oregon did not start the right guard. They had their center move over to the right guard, and they had a walk-on starting at center. So that could have had a lot to do with their offense as well. Now, the weird thing about the Idaho game was that there were like 500 yards of offense. Dylan Gabriel threw for like 400 yards. They won 24-14. It's just a weird game if you watched it. So I will expect Lanning to have his team ready for this matchup. But the key for Boise State is going to be how Jinty is able to break any runs if he's able to do so. Because you know that the Oregon Ducks are going to key in on him and go one-on-one with everybody else on the offense. They don't have a great offense. It just revolves around Jinty. So it's going to be interesting to see how this dynamic develops. Next up, Colorado and Nebraska. Colorado and Nebraska each started their seasons last weekend with victories. Only one of the two will remain undefeated after this weekend. Colorado upset the Cornhuskers last year in Boulder in what was a pretty damn good start to their season. The Buffaloes racked up 454 yards of offense, and Nebraska quarterback Jeff Sims was a turnover machine. I'm not sure they're going to have that problem this time. Yeah, this season, Nebraska has been turning to Dylan Raiola, the true freshman quarterback, the 5-star recruit assigned in January with Matt Rule and the Cornhuskers after initially committing to Ohio State. He has ridiculous arm talent, and his poise is top-notch. His potential is through the roof, and everybody in Cornhusker Nation, their hopes are really high after watching the game last week. Now, if you've been around football and been around Matt Rule for a while, you know that it's cliche at this point to say that Matt Rule-led teams don't usually hit their stride until 2 years of his presence. Didn't happen with the Carolina Panthers, but but that statement still rings true today. This is year 2, and with the addition of probably the most heralded quarterback prospect in recent memory to its roster, certainly makes that task that much easier. Dylan Raiola looked the part in his college debut, picking apart the UTEP defense with some highlight throws as he passed for 238 yards and 2 touchdowns and Nebraska's 33-point win over the Miners. The addition of Raiola could not have come at a more opportune time. After the Cornhuskers finished 2023 ranked 129th in pass success rate, Raiola's 238 passing yards were more than any game Nebraska had last season. Yeah, the future is bright for, what do you call him, Baby Mahomes, Cousin Mahomes? I'm not sure what he's called anymore. But continuity on this offense is also a huge catalyst for Cornhusker successes this season, with 4 returning offensive linemen, as well as 3 of Nebraska's top 4 receivers from a year ago. The Nebraska defense was expected to be a strength this season, and I know they played UTEP. I get it. The Cornhuskers defense did not disappoint. One of the best defensive lines in the country held the Miners to just 2.3 yards per carry and forced 2 interceptions. And Colorado's offense is led by Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter. Both of them expect to have another big game. Sanders and Hunter are elite players, and both are Heisman contenders. Colorado's lack of rushing attack, however, might lead to a few issues on Saturday, especially going up against that defensive line from Nebraska. There is no doubt, though, that Sanders, to keep this one competitive, the Buffaloes held on to a 5-point victory over North Dakota State and demonstrated some improvements on both sides of the ball from their 2023 season. Shedeur Sanders passed for 445 yards and was only sacked 1 time. A marked improvement for a team that allowed the second most sacks in the nation a year ago. Yeah, it was North Dakota State. And North Dakota State, well, they only had 4 wins last season, so they're not the North Dakota State that everybody remembers. That would be South Dakota State right now. North Dakota State's like a little brother right now. While the retooled offensive line did a better job protecting Sanders, running the ball was still an issue, with Colorado only rushing for 59 yards on 23 carries, even after the transfer that they got in the portal. Colorado's longest run was 11 yards. Colorado's front seven, which was one of the worst run defenses around in 2023, also showed a little bit of improvement. The Buffaloes limited the damage of a run-heavy Bison team to just 157 yards and 43 carries. The secondary, however, is still a work in progress. Even with the boost from Hunter, the Buffs surrendered 292 passing yards on just 26 attempts to the Bison in week 1. Yeah, talking season is over. So which team has the edge? We'll get to that. While Colorado looked improved to begin Sanders' second season, there are still some big weaknesses that the Cornhuskers should be able to exploit. The Buffalo offense is still one-dimensional and entirely reliant on Shedeur Sanders to keep it in games. That's going to be a big deal moving forward. A smart thing for Nebraska would be to play deep coverage, limit any damage Hunter or Jimmy Horn Jr. would do in the passing game. Colorado failed to get its run game going against a much physically smaller North Dakota State front four, so it's hard to imagine it's going to have any success against that beef of the Nebraska defensive line when push comes to shove. Colorado's secondary, while it looked a little bit better, not by much, it still isn't that great. And that plays too much man coverage without the talent to support that style. So Raiola is going to have opportunities to make big plays. As long as Nebraska can avoid the turnover like they had in 2023, the Cornhuskers are too deep at every position for Colorado to pull the upset or hang within the score. Now, the Raiola hype train is a real thing. But at this point, I'm going to take Nebraska. They're going to win this game. You have Raiola, a freshman quarterback at home. I just have a strong feeling that Nebraska is going to win this game running away. Colorado still looks like the same team to me from last season. They still have the same issues on offensive line. You still have Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter carrying the load for the offense along with Jimmy Horn. You don't have a run game once again. The defense, as you saw last week against North Dakota State, was non-existent. They struggled with simple concepts and struggled to get stops, and North Dakota State lost some key players from their roster. The question ultimately is going to be, can Colorado keep up with Nebraska's high-powered offense and Colorado's lack of a secondary? Now that we are on the topic of these quarterbacks, Shedeur Sanders, Dylan Raiola, I did a podcast earlier this week talking about the Clemson quarterbacks. And you can easily see that if you have a quarterback that is a legit talent, your team is going to skyrocket. Just look at Nebraska right now. Yeah, I know it's a small sample size. Yeah, that's the motto of the show right now. But the bottom line is this: what would Dylan Raiola look like if he went to Clemson? How about Shedeur Sanders? The quarterback play from Clemson is just so nasty. And that nasty is not a good thing. Like, they are freaking bad. They are horrific. But if you actually look around all FBS, there are a ton of quarterbacks in the SEC. Like, you got Jackson Dart, Carson Beck, like, you got Nussmeier now. The list goes up and down. But you got the Big Ten, and they maybe have two good quarterbacks. So, once again, quarterback play is going to determine how successful your team is going to be. I know you guys have heard that a lot over the years, but the fact still remains. Like, how are you, as a Clemson fan, as a coach for Clemson, how are you going to be able to defend Dabo Swinney? And I'm not calling for his head or anything, but how are you going to defend him if he hasn't been able to get that quarterback position right? That's the big problem here. Are you ready for some NFL football? Okay, you answered. All right. I'll take that as a yes. So let's get into the previews and who I have winning and why to every game this week, including Monday Night Football. God help you, Jets against the 49ers. And Aaron Rodgers, I hope your ACL is fine, because that's going to hurt like hell. First game up is the Steelers and the Falcons. Now, the Falcons have had arguably the biggest offseason additions of any team, from getting Kirk Cousins, who they signed in free agency, to getting him to be the franchise quarterback, and then drafting a backup at 8th overall. Who knows how long that's going to happen? On paper, this team is absolutely going for it, except for its week 1 opponent. Facing the man with the 3rd most wins in this millennium is not how you really want to kick off a really good campaign. Mike Tomlin just coached Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, and Mitchell Trubisky. Yep, that's really bad. All currently quarterback 2s scattered across the NFL. Coached them to 10 wins and a playoff appearance. Look past the questions and the doubts about whether Russell Wilson can recapture his Pro Bowl form or even become somewhat mobile. It's undeniable that the 35-year-old is an upgrade over any of Pittsburgh's 2023 passers. Marquee names on defense and an ascending offensive line, though Isaac Sumalo's absence on Sunday is going to be felt. Russ can cook he can do a little bit. The ideal temperature for the future Hall of Famer is going to be, hopefully, at least lukewarm. This has one of the makings to be a tight, grinded out type of game, with both offenses working through early kinks. But who better than Arthur Smith to help land Atlanta its first loss of the season? If you don't know who that is, that was their former head coach that they fired last year. Yeah. Cardinals, Bills. Now, besides the Colts offense, there is no offense that is going to intrigue me more this season than to see the Arizona Cardinals. We finally get to see Kyler Murray. You get to see Maserati Marv. You get to take him out for a spin. The 4th overall pick's presence in the starting 11 should lead to a more favorable matchups with their tight end Trey McBride and Michael Wilson, and just going to get more running lanes for John Connor. It's a tough early matchup for a Buffalo team with two new starters at safety and without Mr. Everything, Matt Milano. While Buffalo's front is capable of carrying some of the load in the star linebacker's absence, it's likely better Arizona's offensive line over the course of the afternoon. Murray's escapability is going to put enough stress on the retooled secondary to create chunk play opportunities. I don't know. I can't quite commit to the Cardinals in this one, though. We have not seen enough. I don't count preseason, and you didn't see shit in the preseason anyway. But I'm as equally concerned about their defense as well, which has several new pieces but few immediate difference makers. Yeah, the Bills' offense looks vastly different. Yeah, they don't have a true wide receiver one now, but Josh Allen is still QB1 last I checked. And he's more than good enough for this team, especially playing at home. Titans and the Bears. Titans Idiot Nation, listen up. All right. At this point, what more can be said about Caleb Williams? We all know that all season long he's going to be talked about, he's going to be criticized, he's going to be, I hate to use this word, worshipped. It's only worship one person, but the 22-year-old is going to be a beacon of hope. He is going to be that beacon of hope like Michael Jordan was, or he's going to hope to be, or maybe he may end up being the beacon of hope like Angel Reese. We don't know. He has not even played a full season yet. Actually, a full game. Yeah, went 10 for 20 in the preseason, so he had highlight throws. Oh, no. Whatever. I don't care. In Chicago, there is another quarterback that's playing in this game that other people don't know. Or do you? Tennessee's Will Levis is more of a curiosity at this point. We don't really know what he is. I know Brian Callahan doesn't know what he is. But it's not just because he has mayonnaise cologne either that we don't know who he is or even have more curiosity about him. Now, after sliding into the second round of the 2023 NFL Draft, I'm still glad the Colts didn't select him. Levis took the Titans' quarterbacking reins midway through last season with a ridiculous play style that revolved around his absolutely insane cannon arm. But he has little regard for protecting his body. We saw that in the preseason when they were going up against the 49ers and he was going out for a scramble, trying to get that tutty. And what ended up happening, his head had to be reattached to his neck. But Levis facilitated between thrills and spills as a rookie. Ultimately, he gave widespread appraisals of his performance. That's why me, as an AFC South guy and an NFL guy in general, I'm kind of fascinated to see how he fares in this season opener because he's not going up against no cupcake defense. The defense for the Chicago Bears was a top 5 defense on the second half of the season last year. We're going to see what Levis has, but not only does Levis encounter the most quarterback prospects in recent memory, but he's going to face off against a great defense, as I said, but he's going to be facing off against a very deep and talented secondary. Now, if you've been around the NFL, you understand what a litmus test is, and this is going to be an immediate litmus test. And as you can see from the prediction that I'm going to make, I just don't think that the Titans are going to have enough. I think the Bears are going to end up pulling it out. I'm skeptical that Levis is going to earn a passing grade. This is a tough game offensively for the Titans, even though they have more weapons. They added more weapons. But this is going to be the first game in Brian Callahan's tenure. So it's going to take some time for this crazy man, Will Levis, to fit into new head coach Brian Callahan's precision, time-based offense. Next up, Patriots and the Bengals. If Cincinnati were facing any other opponent, I'd be thinking more about the impact of Jamar Chase's ongoing contract drama and stressing slightly about how Joe Burrow's surgically repaired wrist will respond to serious game action. Week 1 shockers happened, of course, but I don't think it's going to happen in this game. The Patriots present a fairly friendly seeming assignment with the Bengals' overall talent. I don't want to dismiss Gerard Mayo and his staff, but it just feels like everything would have to go right for the Patriots, and everything would have to go wrong for the Bengals for them to even stand a chance in this game. This is a rebuilding team in its first game under a rookie head coach. So, Bengals. Texans, Colts. Yeah, it has been made. Obviously, you can see that right there. But I don't drink the Kool-Aid, as you guys should probably know by now. Houston is the clear favorite in this game. The clear favorite to win the division. And really, they should take off just where they left off last season, playing well-rounded football in all 3 phases. It helps that C.J. Stroud got even more weapons with Joe Mixon and Stephon Diggs, and that he's going to face a Colts defense that ranked in the bottom 5 in scoring in each of the last 2 seasons under Gus Bradley's watch. That said, I am eager to see what Indy's offense looks like with a healthy Anthony Richardson, a healthy Jonathan Taylor. These 2 guys are absolute studs, capable of taking over games. If Jonathan Taylor can get back to his old form where he was the NFL rushing leader, look out for this offense to take strides. But to me, this contest is likely going to come down to the Colts D and their biggest weakness, which is their secondary. And the fact that the Colts did not go out and get one of the plethora of safeties that were out there and decided to continue to grow their players in-house and have them take over those positions when they are already the weakest. You're not going to grow over 4 weeks in the preseason. It's not going to happen. So the only way that the Colts win this game is if they can stop everything over the top. I do not see that happening. I do see this being a 1-possession game, but that 1 possession is going to come down to who is more clutch. And I have not seen clutch from Anthony Richardson, and I have seen it from C.J. Stroud. So, going with the Texans. That hurts me to say that. Jaguars, Dolphins. Now, I'm I'm going to go against what I naturally feel, picking against the team that I like better in the trenches. It just feels like I have no other choice because of the ridiculous advantage the Dolphins hold at wide receiver versus what looks like a highly vulnerable Jacksonville secondary. Tyson Campbell is a good player, but what can the Jaguars hang their hat on at quarterback outside of him? Maybe Ronald Darby? Maybe if he steps up in this game and has the game of his life and Packers cast off Darnell Savage benefits from the change of the scenery. But if not, and I don't think it's going to happen, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are going to be running past them. Not through them, past them. No quarterback got rid of the ball faster than Tua Tagovailoa last season. He averaged 2.3 seconds time to throw per next-gen stats, which is just, that's ridiculous. And I will expect more of the same this year. I expect a lot of points to be scored in the type of game that plays into Mike McDaniel's hands. I am taking the Dolphins. Next up is the Panthers and the Saints. This might not be a game everyone has circled on their week one slate, but these are two new offenses. So if you like offenses, this is something that you're going to want to watch. Now, after a disastrous first season for Bryce Young, Carolina got rid of their coach and hired a new one, Dave Canales. He is a young quarterback whisperer with a more wide open scheme, and that's only going to benefit Bryce Young and this pass attack. The Panthers, they gave out $153 million on a pair of guards in free agency, Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis. They traded for a proven separator in the passing game, Deontay Johnson from the Steelers. But the Steelers wish they had him right now. And they spent their first two picks on wide receivers. Xavier Legette, if you don't like his accent, you just need to see yourself to the door because it is absolutely hilarious. And that is not a knock at him. I enjoy every moment he speaks. And they also drafted running back Jonathan Brooks, and the latter of whom is still recovering from a torn ACL, so you won't be seeing much of him. Now, as for the Saints, they hired a new offensive coordinator with this is going to be a highly interesting game. With these brand new offenses, you're not going to really know what to expect. I'm just highly intrigued. But for picking purposes, I'm going with the Saints. Vikings, Giants. Which quarterback do you trust more? Sam Darnold or Daniel Jones? At this point in the career, it's really hard to trust Daniel Jones. So I trust Sam Darnold more. Darnold's supporting cast. Hey, have you seen Justin Jefferson? Yeah. He is far and away better than Jones's group, especially with no Saquon Barkley anymore in the backfield. I mean, the Vikings being a road favorite should tell you all you need to know about the state of the Giants organization at this point, who added talent in the offseason. Brian Burns, wide receiver Malik Neighbors, Brian Dable. Who's going to take the play calling duties back from him? This dude has his work cut out for him. I am going with the Vikings. Chargers, Raiders. I'm placing my trust in Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman's ability to orchestrate an effective running game, because that is what Jim Harbaugh does. That is what he has done wherever he has gone. College, NFL, doesn't matter. The key to the Chargers winning Harbaugh's debut is limiting the impact of Max Crosby and the Raiders' marquee free agent signing Christian Wilkins up front. Now, there's no better way to accomplish that than by running the ball at that duo and wearing them down over the course of 60 minutes. What I'm going to find more interesting is to see Justin Herbert and see how that plantar fascia is doing and see how much more it's going to affect him. The Raiders can see the Gus and JK. They can see that coming, but that doesn't mean they will be able to slow it down. I don't think that they will be able to slow it down for a full 60 minutes. So I am going with the Chargers. Broncos Seahawks. New head coach, Mike Macdonald, previously defensive coordinator from the Ravens. In his 2 seasons as a Ravens defensive coordinator, he faced 4 rookie quarterbacks. And in those games, his units allowed just 1 touchdown pass to Kenny Pickett in Week 17 of the 2022 season. Yeah, it makes sense of that. In last year's opener, Macdonald even made future Offensive Rookie of the Year C.J. Stroud look like someone playing his first professional regular season football game. But the head coach still has plenty of defensive talent at his disposal. I expect him to complicate Nix's life even enough that Geno Smith will be able to make some plays of his own. So I am going with the Seahawks in this matchup. Cowboys and Browns. I, just like many of the NFL population, have my reserved doubts about the Dallas Cowboys, but those are just my personal opinions on how I feel. We have not seen anything from them. Preseason means absolutely nothing. I just have issues with the fact that they continue to live up to the failure to its playoff potential. And we definitely are not going to learn anything new about that this week. We do know that the lineup is anchored by Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and Micah Parsons. As for the Browns, my concerns are a little bit more aggressive. We don't even know what Deshaun Watson is or what he has left in the tank. It was so much unknown. It's tough to pick a team with the human equivalent of a mystery box under center, even at home. I don't have any faith in Deshaun Watson right now. They have a great defense behind him, but we are going to have to see a little bit more. And until then, I'm picking the Cowboys in this game. Commanders, Bucks. These two teams are on the opposite sides of the spectrum. And to me, I just don't see it faring well for Washington. You know, while the Commanders needed to make massive changes across the board, including under center, under the headset, and throughout their league worst defense, a kind of franchise turnover typically doesn't give immediate results. I mean, while the Bucks, who have won 5 out of the last 6 regular season games, claim their 3rd consecutive NFC South title and advanced to the divisional round last year. I would expect Todd Bowles to attack Jaden Daniels from absolutely every angle. Todd Bowles is highly known for blitzing the living shit out of quarterbacks. So I would expect no different. And I would expect the blind side to be completely blind. Where communication Big player that I would expect to have a big outcome in this game is Vita Vea. He absolutely is a tank, and he waits for nobody. I expect him to have a massive game. I am going with the Bucks. It would be a great story if the Commanders could win. It would be a great story if Jaden Daniels would be able to win his first game, but I just do not see it. Rams and Lions, the Sunday night football game. Yeah, Chris Collinsworth, here's to you. Chances are you have at least one player from this game on your fantasy football team. Yeah, because we already know that these two squads are bringing to the table offensively ridiculous firepower. The Lions retained offensive coordinator Ben Johnson. Surprisingly, perhaps their biggest non-move of the offseason, and should be every bit the top 5 scoring offense they were a year ago. Now, I know people give Joe Mr. Goff. They give Mr. Goff a lot of flack, saying that he's not a top 10 quarterback. Well, you might want to go back to the drawing board because he is a top 10 quarterback. If you look at his stats from a year ago. Yes, I do understand that he sometimes throws interceptions at a bad time, but that's just who he is at this point. If he can clean that up, then the Lions are going to have one hell of a season and could eventually go very deep into the playoffs. But the same goes for McVay's group, which, they should continue to build after breakout campaigns from Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams. The defenses are, man, the defenses for both of these squads is the biggest question. The Lions overhauled their secondary, and the Rams are without future Hall of Fame defensive tackle Aaron Donald for the first time in a decade. The defense that makes the most plays likely wins. Duh. And I'll give that edge to the home team. Detroit is ready to show out. The last game of the week is going to be the Jets and the 49ers. If this game were to be played in New Jersey, I would be selecting the New York Jets. But it's not. I might have been able to talk myself into the Jets. I've tried to talk myself into picking the Jets for this game, who have enough talent to potentially keep up with the 49ers in this contest, especially after bolstering the offensive line with veterans Tyron Smith, John Simpson, Morgan Moses, as well as Olu Fashanu. I don't quite have the guts to go back to Aaron Rodgers and company on the road, though. San Francisco remains one of the best teams in the league until proven different. Gangrene is a theoretical contender. The 49ers have actually become a semi-regular presence in the Super Bowl, and I will take the established powerhouse at home. Now, that is all for today's episode. I hope you thoroughly enjoyed it. And if you have not subscribed, go ahead and do so. It helps me out a lot. And if you have not turned on that notification bell, go ahead and do so. We're just getting started. We're on episode 11. We're going to be doing multiple episodes per week. But until next time, this is The Burn and Ryan Van Dever signing off. Peace.